significant contributor to the Sampradaya. So that if you want to say who's written for, well, that's who it was written for, but it was written in a general way too. So anyway, it was an exercise of writing. Exercise in editing for Bhakti Ross. Corrects all my mistakes. I'm very good with English grammar.
Just remember, if in doubt, throw in a few commas.
I do that. She takes them out.
And apostrophe.
I like apostrophe. She doesn't like that too.
Krishna, Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Shetadapanam Bhavamahadabhakti-nirvapanam Shreyakairava-chandrika-vitaranam Vijayavadajivanam Anandam Murivardhanam Pratipadam Punamritasvadanam Sarvatma-snapanam param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tvitarpita Niyamita Smaranena Kala Ekadvashi Tavakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Vidrishami Hajani Naduraga Trinadapi Sanichena Tarorapi Sahisuna Amanena Manavena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitram Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Haitaki Tvai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Vam Vishame Bhavam Mudao Kripaya Tavapada Pankaja Stitadule Sadrisham Vachintaya Nayanam Galada Shudaraya Vanadam Gadada Rudara Gira Ulakari Chitam Vapukada Tavanamagrahani Bhavishyati Yugaitam Namishena Chakshusha Prabrisaitam Sunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Vinahenale Aslishya Vapadaratam Gunastumam Adarshanam Marmahatam Korotuva Yatatatava Vidatatu Lampato Matprananatastu Seevanapara Adaushadata Sadhu Sangotha Bhajana Kriya Tato Nartha Nivritti Shat Tato Nista Ruchistata Atha Saktis Tato Bhavas Tata Prema Yadanshati Sadakanam Mayam Premna Pradurbhave Bhavit Krama
Vajranatranandasya Jana Salakaya Chakshur Nalitanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Pachkoptu Visha, Kripusnabe Vicha, Titanam Pamanebhu, Vaishnavidya Namo Namaha. Oh, good evening. So we're discussing Krishna's exploits with demons as seen through the fine discrimination of Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura in relating a symbolic representation to those demons and Krishna's killing of them to the sadhaka's advancement in spiritual life. His symbology being that these different demons represent impediments to steady devotion, which is the plane from which we can actually advance into freedom from material impediments in our devotional practice. So we look at the Lord's pastimes with his eternal associates in his spiritual playground, and as followers of the Gaudiya Sampradaya, we're specifically given knowledge of those pastimes which our acharyas put forth as the most intimate, as the highest. And who can argue with them? Their explanations, their descriptions, their justifications, the evidence that they use to support that conclusion that the Supreme Lord's topmost manifestation is that all-attractive Krishna, and that the topmost understanding of his intimate loving exchanges is an appreciation for those loving exchanges that happen in his spiritual playground, Goloka Vrindavan, Goloka, and the associated forests where he enacts pastimes on a continual basis. So that continual basis means those pastimes from morning to night are always going on. He's always relishing the most intimate of loving exchanges throughout the different periods of the day, in such a way that is incomparable to any other loving exchange that the Lord may have. It's beyond compare. It's the topmost. Even great lovers of the Supreme Lord who have such deep and profound affection for him are dumbfounded when they come into contact with those particular loving affairs. Uddhava, such a lover of the Supreme Lord that the Supreme Lord let it slip one day that you're more dear to me than my very self. He says this to Uddhava. So when Uddhava went to Vrindavan to pacify Krishna's gopis with special messages of love that were intended to give them some life, because Krishna had heard that they were all near death. Uddhava delivered those messages, and he delivered the philosophy of the self in the hopes of relieving the gopis of their distress. He was unsuccessful, but he was taught quite a lesson. So much so that he stayed for some time. So these continual pastimes of the Lord in Goloka are free of that extreme period of separation, and they're free of the impediments, not really impediments for the residents of Braj, but they're free of any interruption, let us say, by these occasional incursions. Is that the word? They come in and they disrupt things. So these demons, Bhaktivinode sees the symbology being that we're trying to enter into samadhi on Krishna in those continual eightfold daily pastimes. And if we can get past this preliminary stages of sadhana and come to the stage of bhava, Rupa Goswami's looks at devotional service in three broad stages: devotional service in practice, devotional service in ecstasy, devotional service in pure love of God. It is Handbook for Krishna Consciousness, the Bhakti Rasa Rita Sindhu. He explains that there are specific characteristics of those three broad stages. And so for the sadhaka, this preliminary stage, devotional service in practice, sadhana bhakti, is a period of extreme an extreme change in the jivatma's entire existence. Prior to coming into contact with bhakti, being influenced by bhakti, coming through the good fortune of meeting a bhakta who's firmly situated. Prior to that, the jivatma has a certain frame of reference for enjoyment, a certain frame of reference for his existence, a certain framework for his time. So Sat Chit Ananda. The jivatma in contact with the external potency has a certain framework in which he sees these things, in which he sees himself, in which he sees satisfaction of himself, and the existence of his self. Unfortunately, the framework is based upon that which is not enduring. So he doesn't think he endures. That framework is based on having pleasures that come to a halt, that are not enduring themselves. So his ananda, his bliss, is of that nature. And his concept of himself is based on identification with matter. So Sat Chitananda is there for the Jivatma, it's just upside down, inside out, not proper. So the Jivatma comes into contact with bhakti. Good fortune enters into his life through that avenue. The Lord's internal potency, Swarup Shakti, begins the process of reprogramming the Jivatma into what he really is. First, he has to be deprogrammed. So we bring in the deprogrammers, real knowledge, the Shastra, the Guru, the devotees. We unprogram that which has been there since time immemorial. We think this is it. This is the way my life is. This is what I am. So that has to be all cleared out. Shaito Darpana Marjana. The heart needs to be cleared. The heart, the mind, the intelligence, whatever you want to consider the self, needs to be cleared, and then we can gradually become situated in true Satchitananda. What is our true existence? What's true knowledge of our existence? And how is existence to be experienced? Ananda. That's what we're meant to experience. In our attempts as sadhakas to come to this platform of bhava, when the ray of love actually enters into our heart and we start to taste spiritual life, prior to that, our spiritual practice generally is, it gives us a reflection or a shadow. A shadow is closer because it's actually associated with the object. So the sadhus, the sages say that this abhas is a shadow. We're attached to spirituality, but we got no idea how tremendously, unlimitedly, unexplainably spiritual life is. But we're given some entrance here. Why don't you hear how sages have experienced this gradual coming of spirituality? They came into their spiritual age, their eternal. How did they come into their eternity? So we have Sanatana Goswami giving us, Brihat Bhagavatamrita, Gopakumar, step by step, plane of consciousness to plane of consciousness to deeper and deeper understanding of spiritual relationships, a relationship with the Supreme Lord, going deeper and deeper into the understanding of those relationships through the lens of different devotees. Sanatana gives us a nice introduction in the first part of his 3-part book. A little introduction. These devotees are all great devotees, but they all have a different perspective, a different way that they're loving the Lord. Then we come to the story of Gopakumar. He's there, he's trying to instruct a disciple, and he's thinking, Well, the only way I can relate to him is I think the best way I can do it is telling my own story. So let me do that. So he told his own story. Well, this is what happened to me. I was granted eternity. My guru gave me a boon. You're going to be exactly like you are right now. This is you. You're always going to be a cowherd boy. In your self-same body, you are going to go to your ultimate spiritual destination. No change of body for you. Pretty amazing benediction. Of course, devotees change of body or not, they're never frightened of death. It's not something that's part of their makeup. But this was a special benediction, and we see that the acharyas, they're giving us through their writings, through these books, through the Puranas, through the Shrutis, through the Smriti, it's a window into our spiritual life. Entrance into our spiritual life by seeing the spiritual life and practice of others that came before. It's attainable. It's something that can be had, whether it's the story of Dhruva or Prahlad Maharaj, Prithu. So all these, Maharaj, Bharat Maharaj, again and again, these different pastimes are there, the pastimes of these devotees' lives, where they went from this conception of existence based on matter to an understanding of true existence based on the self. So in coming to this platform, we have good guidance, and here Bhaktivinode Thakura is giving us some guidance whereby we can see obstacles in our spiritual life. And in seeing these obstacles in our spiritual life, or in the community, in the practice of devotional service, we can see these obstacles. In seeing these obstacles mostly in ourselves, we can think of Krishna's assistance in destroying the demons in his occasional pastimes, which symbolically represent these obstacles. So 20 obstacles to Vraj Bhakti. 20 obstacles. This is all from Krishna Samhita, Bhaktivinode Thakura's book. And we'll walk through quickly the ones we've already discussed. Putana, nurse, representative of false guru. False guru being the guru that's not got the real goods, but puts himself forth as having something of value to sell you. Trinavarta, the whirlwind demon. We generally come to spiritual life with a head full of swirling misconceptions that kind of blow us this way and that. So Krishna easily weighs those down with the weight of true spiritual knowledge. The Sakata, the cart demon. We generally, in this world of man, we have a conception of spirituality, which is more an emphasis of religiosity, which is more an emphasis of morality, moral rules and regulations, when in fact true spirituality has a lot to do with not trying to enjoy this world, but attaining attachment for the spiritual world. So that isn't to say that there is not some religiosity in spirituality, but it's not the objective. So the cart represents this, sakata, this over-emphasis of regulative spirituality or religiosity that obscures the development of attachment on the spiritual plane. So this ties back into our whole foundational sampradaya, Madhvagaudiya sampradaya of Vaishnavas. Our practice is centered upon attachment, raga nuga bhakti, developing some rag, some attachment for spiritual life. So we do not put the cart before the horse, so to speak. We're not interested in carrying an ass's burden of regulative principles of religiosity if that religiosity does not foster attachment to spirituality, to love, to attachment. So we're not so much interested in all the ritualistic, flowery words of the Vedas that tell us to do this and that to get, to attain an advancement. We follow certain religious principles, but we follow those religious principles not simply for the sake of following them, but to make spiritual advancement. Rupa Goswami uses the term niyamagraha in his Upadeshamrita verse for those things which are, is it the favorable or unfavorable section? It's either the second or third verse. So in those items that are unfavorable, niyamagraha, following the rules and regulations simply for the sake of following them, or neglecting rules and regulations and acting whimsically. Neither of those will serve our purpose in advancement of spiritual devotional service. So Sakata is like that. This having the cartload of regulative life and not keeping focus on spiritual attainment. Vatsasura, the calf, some discussion there by Bhaktivinode regarding juvenile offenses, juvenile tendencies. In fact, there's a whole essay as an appendix in his Krishna Samhita, where he discusses actually juvenile life and how brahmachari plays into that or doesn't play into that. It's a very interesting essay, but not to go deeply into that essay, but Vatsasura is representative of that juvenile offenses of being overwhelmed by the senses and working through that properly in the context of advancing devotional practice. Next we come to Bakasura, large duck. Bhaktivinode brings out the symbology of cheating religion, one based on sectarian formalities and pseudo-renunciation. Again, we notice a recurring theme through many of these obstacles of anything that's standing in the way of attaining attachment. That's natural, because if we look at the whole context of Bhaktivinode's presentation, the context is these occasional pastimes of the Lord. These demons are standing in the way of being completely absorbed in samadhi in the highest exchanges of loving affection, which are represented by the eightfold daily pastimes. He brings out in relationship with Bakasura the Nama Aparads, acceptance of bogus gurus who put forward practices that one's not yet qualified for. So we discussed that they're not, without the qualification, one is wanting to go off and enter into deep bhajan, but they're still struggling with anista bhajana kriya, unstudied devotional practice. There's no need to run off to do 24-hour bhajan when your senses aren't fully under control, when you still are impeded in your devotional practice. We could go back and go over all of those stages, all those different things that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur brings out in Madhurya Kadambini as far as symptoms of unsteady devotional practice. So when there's a question as to whether or not you have even attained nista, then make sure that you've reacquainted yourself with what Vishwanath has given to the devotional community in Madhurya Kadambini, to make sure that you aren't jumping ahead. This is a characteristic of steadfastness and a seriousness in our devotional practice that will serve us well. Let's know where we are. It's a wonderful qualification, to know where we are and to really want to advance through the unsteadiness of anista bhajana kriya to come to nista. Nista is such a wonderful attainment for the sadhaka. So we should want to get there, and we should not want to cut any corners. Let's really purify our heart. If we approach our devotional practice in that frame of mind, what can come but good success? If we're not cheating ourselves, if we want to really come to steady devotional practice and be totally honest with ourselves and with our guru and with our associates as to, this is where I'm at, this is my struggles, these are what can I do to move forward? Not that we simply languish in a false illusion, thinking that I must be so advanced in my devotional life. Well, let's know what real advancement is. What are the characteristics of nista? What are the characteristics of ruchi? Ruchi, a taste for the holy name that won't let me quit chanting. Asakti, recognizing what is my spiritual prospect. Come next to Agasura, the personification of intolerance and cruelty. Really has little appreciation or empathy for others. Pretty self-centered. Doesn't want to see others succeeding in life, succeeding in spiritual life. Well, what's the characteristic of a big serpent? The snake. He's envious. He's just cruel, envious. So when we see this coming, we can remember this pastime. Don't enter into the body of envy. There's a chance you'll be swallowed up and lost forever. We come to the Brahma Vimohan Lila. And that's being distracted from spiritual practice. Distracted through what? The flowery words of the Vedas. So distracted that what? We forget who Krishna is. We forget how powerful Krishna is. We can't recognize what is the characteristics. So we may come into spiritual life and we have a good grasp on things, and then we become distracted by the ideal of liberation. Oh, maybe this will be good for me, liberation. Maybe a holiday in the heavenly planets wouldn't be a bad idea. Well, okay. Maybe it isn't a bad idea, but there's a lot of time to be lost there. Who knows? Countless millions and millions of years. And why would we even think that? Well, we've read something in the Vedas. My gosh, all these mystic powers, all these beautiful heavenly palaces, all these beautiful sense gratification in every way imaginable. My own airplane. I mean, come on, my own airplane. That's pretty cool. You know, it doesn't crash. That's neat. And we forget what these sages, what Rupa has said, or what these Goswamis have said. This pleasure is not even a drop in comparison with the ocean of unlimited pleasure we can have in selfless love for Krishna. His reciprocation with us is beyond anything that you can have in this world. You look to your liberation and say there's nothing higher in liberation. I look to your liberation and say it's not a speck in comparison with the ocean of love, which you can inherit in good association. You can come into this through the mercy of Krishna's bhakti. Then we come to Dinakasura. Dinakasura, the ass. The ass, what his nature is, he carries a burden. He carries a burden when in fact what? What's the nature of the ass? He could just go out and eat all the whatever he wanted, but instead he works for a master who works him like an ass, makes him carry a heavy load, and at the end of the day, he's given a handful of grass that he could have had for nothing. The fruit's there, but he's made to work day and night to try to enjoy it. So there are those, and here Bhaktivinode is extremely strong in his wording of things. There are those in the spiritual community of devotees who just don't get it. They're not there yet. They don't have the subtle discrimination to appreciate developing a loving sentiment for Krishna. It's not come to them yet. So therefore, they don't know what that fruit of devotional practice is. What to speak of tasting it, they can't appreciate it. And since they can't appreciate it, they feel nobody can appreciate it because they're practicing spirituality like everybody else. They're devotees, but they haven't yet developed fine discrimination. But if they see other devotees are attracted to something that they can't quite understand, well, they must be wrong. Bhaktivinode points this out. He says, this Dhanukasura, he doesn't know how to taste the fine fruits of the tall treats, the treats of spiritual life, the treats of true affection, of developing attachment for Krishna. And therefore, he bars the way for everybody else in his company. He puts up a big ruckus. He kicks everybody else in the head. You can't have that. Bhaktivinode points out, they may even keep the other devotees from reading those literatures that will give them entrance into this fine understanding. They minimize the Purva Acharyas, the Prior Acharyas. They make a mess of people's spiritual life. Balaram, who's representative in this explanation of Bhaktivinode Thakura as some real effort on the part of the sadhaka. He has to take full shelter of Balaram to overcome these particular demons. Krishna is dispensing all the others, but these demons, two of them, the Dhanukasura and Pralambasura. So these two, Balaram dispatches. He dispatches because he is what? He is the representative of our good fortune, Guru. Then we come to Aristasura. So some discussion on Aristasura. Bhaktivinode explains this Aristasura is representative of our impatience. I want my spiritual prospect to manifest, and I'm conditioned by my material life that I shouldn't have to wait that long. If I want to be a doctor, I can, even a doctor, it's only 18 years, 14, 18 years, and I can get my degree and go through all my residency and then start charging the big fee, right? So there's some end in sight. So our material life, even if we want the greatest things, if we want to become that, have the head seat in the concert hall for the whatever instrument we're playing, whatever, we can see the end in sight. Spiritual life isn't quite like that. The end's there, and we're going to attain that end in due course of time. But we can't become impatient. Rupa Goswami explains it, Utsahan Nischaya Daryat. Enthusiasm, confidence, patience. These characteristics. Following the program, following the sadhus. So, Aristasura is representative of this impatience. This impatience can become so strong in the sadhaka at times that it'll interfere with their regular devotional practice. They'll actually give it up. I mean, I've been here 30 years. Isn't that long enough? Well, how was your time? Was your time well spent? Would be the question. Maybe you didn't spend it with that attitude of what? Complete surrender. Like Krishna says at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharmam Parityajya, abandon all variety, religion, and just surrender. What's surrender mean? Accepting everything that's favorable, rejecting everything that's unfavorable. Maybe during the 30 years, you had a problem with the rejection part. Maybe you were hanging on to some things. Maybe 24/7 wasn't really part of it. It was 6 and 18. 6 hours of devotion and 18 hours of sleeping and whatever we're used to doing. So after 30 years of 6 and 18, don't expect to get the results of 24/7. That's not going to come like that. We follow in the footsteps of the sadhus, and this is what they're trying to pull us into. You want out of material existence? Well, pull yourself out. Grab hold of good association, and gradually the hours on the Krishna side of the scale have to increase. The rounds, the attention, the dedication, the determination, all those things, Bhaktivinode says, we need to see that we're advancing step by step, day in and day out. Always reassessing what's standing in my way now. What impediment now? Why is my mind still bothered there? Why this? So this is fine discrimination. This serves us well. Aristasura represents the weak-heartedness of expecting something for nothing, and then becoming frustrated when it doesn't come according to our schedule, and so frustrated that we just walk away. We may still show bottle our devotion, still come and, yes, older devotee here. Yes, fully realized. Ah, yes. But I'm not feeling it. There's no tears coming. There's no hair standing on end. I'm not reading the scriptures and wetting the pages with the tears of complete absorption, and wow, Krishna is right here. I'm not chanting my rounds and just my voice is just choking up. I can't even finish a mantra. That's not coming to me. But so many years I put in, So advanced I must be. Aristasura. Then we come to Kaliya. Malice. Having a council that's in opposition to Krishna's devotees.
Having a what? A council? What does that mean? Advisors.
Advising others against devotees, basically. Kaliya wasn't alone. He lived in a whole group. In fact, that's something that Bhaktivinode brings out in the appendix where he explains this pastimes is when Krishna entered Kaliya's lake, not only did Kaliya wrap his coils around him, all of Kaliya's associates did. All of the serpents there who were his, and they were all equally as strong as he was. That's what completely petrified the cowherds and the Krishna's friends. They were at death's door. Seeing Krishna there's no way of escaping. How could he escape? He was completely in the coils of Kaliya and Kaliya's associates. So deceit and cruelty are a poison to the artless, loving nature of the denizens of Braj. I'm going to leave this for the next class because I want to explain exactly the way Bhaktivinode puts the whole thing in perspective. We're already at 8 o'clock. But just as a preview, what Bhaktivinode brings out is the fact that Krishna allows his devotees to be abused at the hands of Kaliya, at the hands of people that aren't representative, people that have malice and malintent and misguided desires in relationship with the devotees and the community of devotees, to the brink of death, just to highlight their devotion. So it'll be an interesting class there. Are there any questions about what we did cover this evening? Next class, we will not do a review because reviews tend to go on for a whole class. And there's 20 obstacles and Kaliya's 10, so we have another 10 to go. So we have to first review here, move forward. Any other question? Any questions at all? Thank you so much for your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dulal Chandra ki jai.